Hey everyone, so today's story is all about the people of Israel on their path out of Egypt. And we've gone through, there was all kinds of plagues and bad stuff that happened, and God used that as a tool to help encourage the Egyptians to let the Israelites go. That was Moses' big line, let my people go. And so the Egyptians said, okay, we'll let you go. And they started to leave on foot. It was like a bunch of people just traveling down the road on foot, hoping to get out of the dangerous country that they were in and into a safer place, which ended up being Israel, but that's a long way off. And along the way, at some point, the Egyptians said, you know what? We don't want to let these Israelites go. They're doing all kinds of free work for us. They're building our pyramids. They're taking care of things for us. They're growing our plants, harvesting our fields, all that kind of thing. And so maybe we don't want to let them leave after all. So they started following after. And they actually sent their military out to follow the people of Israel and stop them from leaving, bring them back so they could keep being slaves. And as they were going out, the people of Israel, the Israelites, Moses and his crew, ran into a river, kind of a body of water. It was called the Red Sea. You can look on a map now, Google it, and you'll see that there's a thing called the Red Sea. And so Moses and his people got there. And they weren't sure where to go from there. They felt like, we're trapped, right? If we go forward, there's the sea in front of us. If we go back, there is the Egyptians behind us. What are we going to do? And what some people think happened, historians think happened, is that the Red Sea, during the right time of year, gets really shallow, right? And the winds kind of blow, and it makes it so that someone on foot would be able to walk across. It would be like walking through like a swampy kind of thing, walking through like a muddy kind of thing. And so these people were able to walk through. And the Egyptians, on the other hand, would have been in their big armor. They had chariots, right, which were, like Mario Karts, essentially. And so the Egyptians, when they kind of went through with their horses and their heavy chariots and their heavy gear, would have gotten stuck in that mud, and they wouldn't have been able to go forward. That's what some people think happened. The way it oftentimes gets drawn up and pictured, right, is you end up with this big, deep body of water, and God kind of parts the Red Sea where it goes up, and it looks like there's water on one side and water on the other, and they're walking right through the middle. And then when the Egyptians come through, it splashes down on them, and they get stuck and drown. No matter which way you see it going, right? Whether you think it's kind of the more magical water on each side, or the more explainable, weather conditions making it so that people on foot could pass, but the Egyptian military couldn't. No matter how you see it, the message is that God had a way for his people, right? That he led them in this direction, and once they got there, there was a way for them to move forward that the people chasing after them couldn't go. That's why I have this picture with me today. It's actually a picture with lots of little pictures. This one here, they're probably harder to see, but if you're ever in my office, you can ask me about it, I'll show you. This one here is a picture of LCLC. It's the camp that is our Lutheran camp around here. I worked there when I was younger. That's a picture of the emergency room of the hospital in Gettysburg. I was a chaplain at that hospital in Gettysburg, which is kind of like a pastor for people who are in the hospital. This is a church called Trinity. This is in Lemoyne, Pennsylvania. And I worked there as well when I was in seminary. And I helped lead service and stuff like that with the senior pastor who was there. This here is a picture of York Hospital. I was a chaplain there as well. And again, chaplains are like a pastor for people who are in a hospital. This is another Trinity, but that's Trinity Freeport. Freeport is a town outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I was an intern there. St. John's has had interns in the past too. They're people who spend a year at a church working with a pastor. We used to have interns here when Pastor Scarfita was the pastor. And they're learning how to be a pastor, and it's kind of the last step before getting your own church. And that's where I did mine, Trinity Freeport. Here is a picture, that one's a little closer. That's from Lord of Life, which is just over the road in Depew. I worked there with Pastor Debbie. That was when I first was a pastor, that's where I was. That there is Trinity South Newstead. That's right, I've worked at 3 different Trinities, a Trinity of Trinities. That is Trinity South Newstead, and that was the church I was at just before I came here to St. John's. And then this bigger picture here you can see is our steeple here at St. John's. And the reason I show you this is because in these pictures is kind of the journey I've taken in my life, right? From camp to the chaplains to being at these different churches to finally ending up right here. And throughout that whole journey that I've been on, I know that God has been with me and supported me and taking care of me along the way. And whatever your pictures would look like, whatever your journey looks like, God's with you too. And God is taking care of you as well. And so when we look at the Red Sea, it can get distracting, right, to think of how neat it must have been to have this water part on either side. But I think the more important message is that on their journey, God was looking out for those people. That on their journey, God was with those people. And on our journey, God is with us too, taking care of us, looking out for us, keeping us safe, giving us encouragement along the way, giving us people who keep us safe and encourage us along the way. And so, as you are on your journey, just remember that just like the Israelites, you're not alone. And that when you face obstacles and challenges along the way, God can support and encourage you and help you along on whatever your journey has to offer. Bye, everyone.